So I didn't go back to the movies to see Queen and Slim, but this is part 2. And I believe I left off where we were talking about the transgender girl, how well she did in the movie, and how top-notch her acting was and believable. When she talked about happiness and how a lace front wig makes her happy, and the kiss of her man's lips on her forehead are the little things that make her happy. You know, and that's something that, like, I know for me, I've struggled with, is contentment. I've never been able to be content. I actually dumped a girl I was dating because she kept saying, I'm so content with us. I'm so content. And I was like, whoa. I didn't even understand that. It made no sense to me, you know, for her to keep telling me how content she was. I don't even know how to be content. And to hear this woman talk about what makes her happy, and I'm referring to the transgender woman in the movie, it was interesting to see, you know, her reflecting on what happiness is, and it was really cool. It was really great acting. It was great acting after the other. It was, everyone was on their A game for this movie. Kudos to the director who was able to take this cast of people and allow them moments to shine. You know, I really respect that about this movie. Also, I talked about how this uncle of hers, this pimp, and, you know, Boheme Woodbine's character, and how he was able to show that PTSD in such a, you know, it's like we got a guy who has the number one highest fugitive in his home, and he puts that situation into jeopardy by not staying focused. He put that into jeopardy by having such a huge fight with one of his girls. And it was about the misplacing of a ring. And this misplacing of the ring escalated into violence. And it appears that she dated this officer, and he obviously must have told someone nearby, listen, if there's ever a problem, you know, just give me a call. You know, if she's ever in trouble, just give me a call. And he shows up, and he did look at the truck, and he asked the guy, hey, what, you got a new truck? And I don't think it was because that truck was on like an APB search alert. That wasn't what it was. It was about just anything new that this man has. That officer knows every single thing about this man, only because of the love that he has for this prostitute, the prostitute character that was there. And that's what I'm under the impression. I'm under that belief system that there's the original officer that got put into the, not the original, but the officer that got put into the trunk, never called it in, just sat back. He made it home, and he just, you know, watched the television to see what was going to happen next to these people, and if they were in fact able to, you know, get away, kind of a thing. He became a voyeur, like we were all voyeurs in this movie. And the camera work to this movie was so good that you almost felt like there was a scene when they pulled up their car, because the uncle tells them, listen, go meet with a friend of mine. And this friend of mine, his wife is a little crazy, but he's top notch, and he'll help you, and he'll know where to take you. So en route to this friend of his, you can see a person across the street looking through their window and watching them walk into the home. And it was the voyeuristic aspects of this movie. It was done really well. And they didn't have to do it where, like, you see certain movies where they're constantly showing you where video cameras are and how you're being followed, and they putting that. This movie told you about how it's, you know, people see stuff, and they're observing, and they're watching your, you know, People are watching either over their neighbors or watching their neighbors for whatever reasons. And I felt that the movie was done in that same style, a voyeuristic way, where we were kind of like watching closely, but we still had to understand all of the background noise that was happening at the same time. And it was done intelligently. It was done in a very intelligent way. And I'm not sure I'm getting it, if I'm going ahead of myself. Oh, I am, because I never talked about the scene with the kid who eventually went off and shot a police officer. And I've heard some pushback on they needed to shoot a black officer to balance the movie so that the movie had more balance in it. And that might be correct. I'm not here to that's on the table. Let's put that on the table, because it's right on the surface, and it's real easy to think that. And I would also put other things on the table, that the us versus them mentality, that this kid shot the black man that happened to be a police officer who was trying to talk to the kid and tell the kid, listen, I'm just like you know, but I have a job to do, man. Just go home. Just go home. You don't need to be out here. And the kid pulled out the gun. And it was like, it's like this kid, you look at his father and how the father was just such a hard ass. And when I almost started to hate a little bit, because the radiator and water pump for this vehicle, you can get done for $500. So he charged them $2,000, and then he said, if you want it done in one day, I'm going to charge you $2,500. And immediately I was thinking, wait a minute, you can get a high-end radiator for that, and the hoses that connect to it, along with the water pump, for $500. So why is he charged? I mean, we're talking about $500 right there from AutoZone. AutoZone has all those parts laying around. And then if there's, you know, like for us to imagine that, I was like, whoa, what's this all about? And what it was that mechanic, despite the fact that he didn't snitch, he did say that he didn't approve of what they did, and he didn't think they were heroes, and he didn't like them as people, as human beings. So that's why he overcharged them. It was one of those situations where you're going to find the person who's not going to agree with you and not going to like what you're doing. And I like the fact that this movie didn't have everyone around them helping them. But this man was a very, very hardcore dad. Very hardcore. He actually, when he asked the son a question, he told the son, listen, take them for a walk to a certain place that they were very familiar with, maybe, and the son agreed to do that, but he didn't say it in the way that the father wanted him to say it. So the father gave him the most dirtiest look, and the kid had to quickly, hit him with the the kid had to quickly submit to his father. And I would imagine that this kid has to submit to his father and become and be demasculated over and over and over again, whereas the father doesn't recognize the young man as being an adult. And look at this, they're putting this stuff over here together. This is cool. Hopefully I don't turn this off. I don't want to need to put a part 3. Nobody will watch the part 3. They're doing some work right here. Let me see if they can hear me. Nope, they don't hear me. They're focused. It's like a clock, the winding of a clock over here. It looks beautiful. Oh, Tom Ford. I had a pair of glasses from Tom Ford. It's the only Tom Ford thing that'll fit me. I can't find anything from Tom Ford that'll fit me but a pair of socks and some glasses. I digress from all that. Put this back. Here we go. So, where was I? Now, where was I? I was talking about how, yeah, this father was such a, he was so hardcore like that. He emasculated his son at every chance he probably got. This child felt defeated in life, being raised by this man who never acknowledged him being a young man, probably treated him like a child, and felt like he was going to be treated like a child forever. And you have these two people that now have the whole entire nation in an uproar. Everyone is picking sides. The media would have you picking sides. So there are protesters going on all over the country, it would appear from the movie. And this young man goes to the protest and he has his gun. And he's ready to lay down the first cop that give him some lip. Because he was looking for his place in this world. Just imagine living in a world where, your heroes are cop killers. What? Your heroes are cop killers? Your heroes are people that are trying to cross the country because they was involved in some sort of shooting. And you got a father here charging $2,500 for a $500 job. And I understood his anger. I understood this young man's voiceless anger, where you want to talk and you want to say something that's on your mind, and every chance you get to open your mouth to say something, you can't do it. And there was a scene in this movie where they were the young man walks them, gets them away from the father because they were like hovering over the father. And, the father needed them to get off of his back. He was just like, listen, do me a favor. Take them for a walk. And in this walk, there was that communication thing again. It was that communication of not speaking, almost reading each other's mind, that pineal gland consciousness thing that I talk about in my intermittent fasting channels or episodes that I do in my vlogs. So in my intermittent fasting vlogs, I talk about how the separation of the computer brain and the consciousness, and how they were able to communicate in such an interesting way. There was a quote that they had, and the quote was about how even if you die, you're immortal. It's almost to the point where, back in the days, they said if either you publish or you perish. And in this techocracy that we have, I would argue that no longer do you have to publish. You just have to post it. Something like what I'm doing here. Something like what I'm doing here. A little bit like what I'm doing here. I'm posting videos. And these videos that I'm posting are in some way keeping me alive, and I am publishing to some degree. I am maybe afraid of perishing, afraid of not my voice not being heard. And that's what that young man was dealing with. He was dealing with that idea that he'll never be remembered in a world under his father's care. You know? It reminds me of how, you know, the cycle of people, how I see all these Dominicans, they have all these delis, and all these Arabs have all these delis. And when I was a kid, it was, you know, all black people and Puerto Rican people had delis, but their children never kept it going, because the children didn't want to be like the father. The children didn't want to be like the mother or any part of that shopkeeping. I have a good friend of mine's, and I know him since he was 18. When he was 18 years old, I was 21, and I was bartending at the time, and his deli was 2 doors down from the bar, and I would always frequent the deli. I knew his mom, and I knew him and his brother, and one brother was a race car enthusiast. He wanted to become a race car driver, which he did become a race car driver. And the other one was just like, you know, more of like a family man, and he wound up opening up a couple of stores, and every store he opened, he would just, you know, like recently I just saw that his latest store he's had for about 6-7 years closed down. He finally closed it. And it's like he's suffering from what the blacks and the Puerto Ricans suffered from, where their children do not want to do what their fathers did because they saw the stress. And if they just only knew, you know, like Mark what is it? Was it Mark Twain? Mark Twain said, no. It was Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin said that it takes 3 generations to be a professional. So if I'm a plumber and my son becomes a plumber, it wouldn't be till his son became a plumber that you have a realistic profession, a professional. Up until that point, you'd really just have a job and you have something that you're doing. And you might feel like you have a profession. Now everyone uses the word career. I have a career, I don't have a job. But in order to truly have a profession, it takes 3 generations. So I would argue with people all the time that are in the music business, and when they put their children to school, they keep their children away from the studio, and they keep their children away from the music business, because they feel that this business is so hard. I wouldn't want that for my children. I want them to be doctors and lawyers and attorneys. So what they don't understand is that they have now every time their child has to do something, they're starting almost from scratch, you know, and it takes at least 3 generations, you know, and I thought that was very profound what Charlie Chaplin said. And I digress from that. Let's talk more about Queen and Slim, and how we're at the point where they've burnt up the truck, the F-150, and they've taken the American muscle car with the 22-inch rims across country, and that they're dressed in what would look like would work with that car, and you know, they're off, and they're trying to make it to Queen's uncle's, the pimp, friend. A friend of his. Interesting. A friend of his. And this friend of his lives in the suburbs, where the houses go for at least $750,000 to $1.5 million. Very nice 3-level homes, maybe 2-level homes, but definitely full basement, 2-car garages, but all based on like 1960s design, where they were high-end homes. And the community, the trees are all over 60 years old on the block, and they set a really nice tone for that, because we have a guy who is a pimp living with 4 women And his backyard, there is an indoor pool, a pool in which they probably haven't used in 3 seasons. And he has also a friend who's living in a good life, but it just, his contrast was that he's like wearing the Gucci suits, and he's very, very hood, very, very pimped out, and his friend is just like stone cold square. And you start to, there's like a theme in the movie, and this theme in the movie starts to turn in a way where I haven't heard anyone speak about this, that's talked about this movie. And that is that it was a truth job. I refer to it as a truth job. A lot of truth jobs, like movies like The Matrix and, you know, things like that. People might call those truth drop movies. And this movie, I would argue, had a truth drop in which the friendships that was helping move along this journey across the back roads of America, which started, I think, in Louisiana. No, not Louisiana. It started in, I can't remember offhand, but it ends up in Florida. This trip and this traveling that happened along America was, I don't want to lose my train of thought because I have a lot I'm thinking about, and my mind seems to be moving fast. And I want to go in sequence. I want to be able to talk about the movie and not be all over the place. And too late. So we have they meet with this person. Unfortunately, they park their car right in front of the person's house, which it appears that they shouldn't have done that. I mean, I would have parked 3 blocks away. You know, but they parked in front of the house. The person was watching them, and eventually they called the police, I'm sure. And not because they were looking for that vehicle. They called the police because there's 2 people that are wanted, and this neighbor sees 2 black people walking into their white neighbor's house, and, you know, things are clicking. We're talking about the news is playing this everywhere you turn. This is the #1 story. And the guy tells them, because of the friendship with the uncle, he is willing to help them without any concern for himself or his family. It was almost as if there was a debt that was owed. But there wasn't a debt that was owed. It was that pineal thing, I think. Something that soldiers can experience. Something that I believe that Queen and Slim experienced. That connection that they have, that cosmic connection that us as humanity have. Soldiers have that same bond, that same connection. And they were eating dinner. The table was set for 4. And it was the husband and wife along with Slim and Queen. And I thought it was interesting because Queen had talked about how she was really disgusted by the way people eat. Something that happened early on in their first date that we know nothing about, that she was repulsed by people eating. So she goes on this date with this guy where they're going to eat. And knowing that she's repulsed by people eating, she's a saboteur in her relationship. She wanted to sabotage her date. She purposely wanted to go somewhere and sabotage it, or else why would she go somewhere where there's food involved? But it was cute because when they finally made it to that person's home, he was chewing with his mouth closed. And he submitted to her in that kind of a way where he was cognitive of himself. Something that I always say, you know, people can change, man. You know, stop thinking that the 20-year-old you should be the same as the 40-year-old you. If they are, then you are truly lost. I am nothing like the 18-year-old man I was, a young man that I was. I am not like the 31-year-old man that I was. And he chewed with his food with his mouth closed. And I don't think that was necessarily of submitting. I believe it was more something like an understanding of consciousness and what makes a person, why make a person unhappy when it's an easy fix, you know? He didn't have to be like, just the way I eat. Why are you going to judge me? Everything I do, you're judging me. No, that's an argument. Let's not argue. This is the person that she can't stand looking at a person chewing. I am like that as well. You know, I actually took a buddy out well, not, he's my buddy. He's my friend. He's really my good friend. He's my accountant. He's a certified public accountant. And he's been with me since I was 21 years old. I trust him with my life. He's a friend. And very few friends I have. And he's one of them. His name is Andre. So Andre, you're looking at this, I love you, man. I really do. And I had to tell him he was eating dinner. I said, whoa. You can't eat like this in front of me, man. Like he was just mixing all the food up. It was so gross, and chopping and mixing and then eating this slop. It was like, I said, please tell me that you do not go on dates and eat like this, because you'll never get a second date. So I get Queen. I get her. Even though I didn't like her. I thought she was cliche. I thought she was stereotypical. But she's also a person. She is also a real person. Because I've experienced that. So now, I need to drink something. My mouth is so dry. Bam. Shameless plug. Give me a call. Let's talk. Maybe I'll only drink your water every time I do a video. So I understand the eating. I understand that I got that, and he closed his mouth. And then it was so interesting how this man, being a soldier or ex-soldier, he was able to quickly see a shadow moving and move right into action. Told him, run upstairs, go under my bed. And underneath the bed, he was able to create this crawl space. And stuff like soldiers, people that suffer from PTSD, have places that they feel that they might need to hide, you know? Also, he did it for free. He's hiding these people in his home. Police raid his home. He's sitting outside and refuses to cooperate with them in any way. His wife, the woman who you would think, America would have you think, will flip because she doesn't want to spend a day in jail, doesn't want to be questioned. She would flip. No, she did not. Because why? She honored her husband. Despite how she felt, her deep connection to being such a hard ass, she still knew that she wasn't going to go against her husband. And after being on the floor what appeared to be the whole night, all the way to the morning, probably hitting the afternoon, we're talking about hours, these people were in the floorboards. They were like, we're getting out of here, because the police actually kept the husband and wife that was assisting them. And you know the FBI wanted to separate them, put them in different rooms, and drill them. But I know they asked for an attorney. And they, you know, even though Homeland Security probably could have gotten involved, and all that needing attorney stuff doesn't even matter. And now the scene shifts to them finding, let's get out of here. We got to get out of this house. We're sitting here in this house. We need to get to the next person. There's another person that they need to get to, and that person will then take them to another person. And check this out. The person that they met up with was another soldier suffering from PTSD, like most soldiers are. There's like 28 suicides every day in this country because of what goes on, so that I can wear this shirt, so I can drive this car, so I can be part of this world that doesn't even comb their hair anymore. So I love you, soldiers, for doing what you do, and I hate the fact that you come home and suffer the way you suffer when you should be winning at all times. And then it was interesting to see how they so they jump out the window. The dislocating of the shoulder scene was so good. Her crying and screaming in pain was so good. And I like the fact that she was so confident that just bend your knees and roll when you fall, but yet she hurts herself, and he listened to her and didn't hurt himself. And he was actually a little surprised by that. So that was cool. And they make it into an adjacent garage. There's an old car there. They start the car. And then about maybe 100 feet away, there are police officers that are sitting in that area. They have the street blocked off. You know, they're just sitting around waiting for them to get the call to, all right, take off the yellow tape and just come back and things like that. And one of the officers, who happens to be a black man, I didn't really care for the banter that he had with the officer when he was very hypersensitive and totally triggered by being called a city boy. And he says, don't call me boy. And the officer didn't even care. He was like, yeah, whatever, you know. He didn't mean anything by it. He knew he didn't mean anything by it. And he was crystal clear of who he was as a person, which I liked. I liked that the officer didn't argue back with him. But I kind of didn't think that was even necessary as a scene, because I believe the officer could have done what he done without painting the picture that he was hypersensitive about race. But we're all humans, and I think they portrayed him more as a rookie. You know, someone who just, or maybe a transfer. He got transferred from the city and now he's working in a town. And he goes over to check what he thought he heard was crying. And when he opens up the garage door, that he sees that it's cracked, he sees them and they see him. And there's that moment where they're staring at each other. And the officer looks around, knowing that it's clear behind him, and he tells them, come on, get out of here. You know, and it's like, I love that. I didn't care for the hypersensitive conversation he had to kind of give us a clue who he was, because I don't think that that was necessary. I don't think that he had to come across as that guy. But you know, Hollywood is afraid that people are not as intelligent as they are, so they give you sometimes too much. And this is the part that I felt, but we're gonna rock with it, because he let them rock, he let them leave. So they leave and they head over to the next stop, which was another soldier. And what we've learned from that other soldier was that they gave people hope. And he was the kind of guy who lives his life in a trailer, dilapidated trailer. So just look, you know, you see the one soldier, the first soldier, he's living with his wife. They're living in this home that was built in the 1940s that have tree-lined streets that are 60 years old, beautiful on the block. And the home is beautiful. The staircase is probably made out of mahogany. Sturdy, beautiful home with a basement. And the black soldier lives in the trailer park and is suffering from PTSD in a very high level, where he looks like he goes nowhere without his shotgun. And not only that, he even talks about fear of death in such an interesting way, how he says how he thinks someone is going to kill him every day. Every day. So in order for us to believe that, I would say that this soldier is also maybe even a marijuana dealer or something like that. He's involved in some sort of shady activity. He didn't come across as a car salesman, an no, he came across as a person suffering from PTSD, probably living off of his checks and making a little side money, but not enough money to get him out of that dilapidated trailer. Not enough money to get him out of that car that the rims are worth more than the car. Not enough money, or not enough of a good situation. And the first thing I said to myself when I saw this character, because they fell asleep waiting for him. He was late. He never showed at a time that was realistic for him to show. And when he did show up, he woke them up by cocking the shotgun and playing with them and thinking it was funny. And I was like, wow, you know, how do you trust a person like that? You know, you have to try. Oh, but before that happened, before they ran out of gas, or I don't know if they ran out of gas, but they stopped where they were supposed to meet this guy. There was a scene where Slim went horseback riding. And it was a very small scene where he just sat on top of the horse. The horse took like 3-4 steps. And then one of the farmers yelled out, hey, what you doing over there? And I was able to, that resonated with me because I was, I think I was in Texas. And I had the children with me, and I had LJ with me. This might have been our Route 66 route that we were doing. And it was probably near where all those Cadillacs are coming out of the ground. And maybe right here, I'll show a picture of that day when we were with the Cadillacs. And I wrote, oh, no, I wasn't with the kids at that. The kids weren't even born when that happened. But I was on, I can't remember exactly where I was. But this, I was with the kids, not the Cadillac time, but this is the time when the kids were born, and we went across country, and there was a bunch of cows, and they were near the gate, and I pulled over, and I was like, come on, let me take some pictures of you kids by the cows. And we were not there 5 minutes, and a truck pulls up with a father and son. They're like, hi, how you doing? And we're like, we're good. And he was just like, are you thinking of jumping that gate? And I was like, oh, no, we're going to just take a couple of pictures. And he was just like, don't worry, we're going to go, come in. And he opened up the gate. He drove his car in and said, go ahead, take a few pictures next to the cows. Be careful, though. He said, you should be fine. So I took a few pictures of the kids next to the cows. And then we ran off there. So when I heard when they went by the horses, they're like, hey, what are you doing there? Let me tell you, these farmers, they know what's going on with their animals. And it's not surprising that someone will pop up after only a couple of minutes and say, yo, what's going on? What are you doing? And so I was able to relate to that as well. You see, when you travel across country, these stories, these things happen. This is real. You know, bumping into those horses, jumping on them, and then getting yelled at. It's very real. That will happen. And the way he was like, you know, I might not get a chance to do that. And she was like, no, come on, I'll take you horseback riding when we get out of the situation. And he was like, we might not get out of this situation. Let me jump on this horse while I got an opportunity. And he did that. And I love that. And there was a good quote when they talked about that, how the black man was never allowed to be on a horse because the white man never wanted to look up to him. And I thought that was pretty interesting and profound. And he goes, so then the next scene in that same vehicle that they got from jumping out of the window, which was like one of those diesel Mercedes-Benz station wagons, she wound up like hanging, like ghosting. I think ghosting is more when you have the door open and the car is riding smoothly, and then you're like running next to the car or dancing next to the car as it's traveling. And that I've done. But what she done was just like hanging out of the car with her arm just elongated out of the window all the way out, half her body sitting on the door of the car, the window, the edge of the window, and just letting the wind just hit her head. And she gets back in and she's like, I always wanted to do that my whole life. You know, and I've seen people do stuff like that. I've seen people like in limousines, you know, like on the top where the sunroof of the limousine is open, and they're just like, you know, they're having a sweet 16, or they just got married, and you're like, wow, that's so cool. You know, I always wanted to just like drive and just feel that wind hitting me, you know? And she was able to do that. I thought that scene was so good too. It was like one after the other of good scenes. He wound up doing it himself and was very reluctant. I like the fact that he was reluctant. The director knew what they were doing by not having everything just flow. Everything can't flow. You have to have fear. You have to challenge yourself. And this movie was constantly challenging itself. And I believe that I don't even think I even talked about when she made that turn, when they first had that American car, the muscle car that they got from the uncle. She made a turn and she went to visit her mother's grave, something she never done before. And everyone could relate to that, you know. How many grave sites, you know, especially if you're over 40, you know, all your friends start dying. You don't visit their grave sites, but you want to. You really do. And she made that turn. She's like, I'm gonna go visit my mother's grave before we try to fly out of here. And that was such a great scene too, you know, the moment that she had there, which led to the sex scene. And I must say, she had an amazing body, long legs. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of LJ and myself, because LJ's taller than me and she was taller than him. And I like that, where like you see like all these short actors or shorter than their co-star actors, they like won't even work with a woman that's taller than them. They won't even work with a woman that's taller than them. So I give this director a lot of respect for that, for putting this tall woman next to this man, and she didn't dominate over him. He was able to hold his own, and it was done so well. I didn't talk about the scene in the club where they were dancing. Oh, it was lit so well. The way that sheen on their body when they were dancing. Because, you know, you go to these clubs, I mean, you're going to be sweating through your clothes. Even though the next scene, when they were up against the wall, there was no more sweat. But I liked the scene it was lit so well. It was lit so well from when they were standing outside of the car when they ran out of gas, waiting for a car to drive by. That scene was lit so well. The scene in the club was lit so well. So difficult, that club scene, to light that club scene the way they did. Kudos to the lighting team on this movie. You guys need an Academy Award. You lit this movie so well. Oh, the lighting was so good. So good. And it's not easy to light those scenes like that. Dealing with dark-skinned people in the nighttime with only one light overhead. You know, someone else would have had the car lights on, the interior lights on. They would have added an extra light coming from the bottom like you do in a music video, but they didn't do that. And I respect this director for the way they was able to keep the movie so realistic, where you were truly a voyeur in this movie. Very difficult, you know, to watch a movie and you're just peeking in, slowly watching and peeking in, you know, almost with blinders on. You were so engrossed. There was a moment where LJ was on the edge of her chair, and I'm thinking, like, is LJ fighting her sleep? You know, because she has an issue when I take her to the movie, she will go to sleep. Well, she used to. She hasn't done that in a few years, so I'm not going to keep harping on that. She hates that I harp on that. And she was like, she was just on the edge of her seat because she just couldn't get off of it. And then in that American car, I thought the scene in the car was so good. She was so fine and sexy, and it was so realistic. The thrusting, the kissing, the biting of the lips, the chemistry, the sweat on his back. They did two positions. It was her on top and then him on top. And I can tell you this, you can't do that in a Japanese car. No. You got to go American. This is American tale, I keep telling you. The sex scene happened in an American car, because you cannot have sex in those other cars. No. You couldn't do what they did in this car. No. You have to be like 110 pounds to get away with that. This car, you couldn't do that. That car, you can have a little fun. They had that door open, which gave them a little leverage. I love that. And they just had, it was a really, I mean, the chemistry between the two people were very realistic. And I don't think we're going to hear stories about how the first day they shot that scene because the director wanted to have... No. We're not going to hear none of that sucker stuff. I don't believe so. I don't know what I believe, but the scene was great. And I'm not going to get graphic with it. It wasn't even graphic. It was almost like... Right after that, they were talking about children. And where do the children come from? Because their pineal gland was open so much, they connected on such a cosmic level that she knew she was pregnant. She knew that he got her pregnant that night. I would argue that she was aware of herself and her body and so in tune on such a cosmic level that she knew that his sperm made it and she was pregnant. I would argue that. A true connection like that is so difficult to find. I'm very honored to have LJ in my life because, you know, we connect on such a cosmic level. So true. And, you know, this movie leads us to the guy, the other soldier that was taking them to another soldier who had a plane. So what I liked about this movie was the fact that in America, you have people that are willing to help you, knowing that you're a fugitive, knowing that everything around you is closing in and they're trying to get you, that you can still find people who are willing to help. Also in America, you have a group of men that fought for this country. And they fought alongside pimps. They fought alongside all walks of life. And they have a brotherhood. And that brotherhood is not gonna... No compensation is necessary. It's like... No one is talking about how soldiers are coming together in America. America would have, well, not America, the media and those parasites that run the world, aka the not milk. Spell that backward. It's spelled backwards. If you take not milk and you reverse it, that's what I'm referring to as the creatures that control this reality that we see, that we call real. What's happening is connections are being made. Lifelong connections, brotherhoods are being made in this country by the soldiers that go out there so that I can, you know, wear this watch, wear this silly shirt, wear these cool glasses and drive this car and go to the mall. There are brotherhoods being connected in race. Doesn't mean anything when you have to depend on the guy next to you. Whether he's Irish, whether he's Polish, whether he's ADOS, whether he's African American, whether he's Puerto Rican, it doesn't even matter. There's a brotherhood in America that's happening, and this movie was a truth drop to the brotherhood that is happening in America. A real brotherhood. Don't get it twisted. These men know how to shoot. These men know how to fight. These men know how to coordinate and get together. And the only thing that stopped them from making it to their goal was the fact that one of those soldiers understands what a come up looks like. And understands that the streets gotta eat. And understand that whether they made it out of here or didn't make it out of here, their legacy and their legendary nuance, or their story will continue to be told. And if I can make 500, as soon as I saw the guy's character, I told LJ, he's the one that's going to turn them in. Because just looking at the way he lived, this guy didn't even have a cell phone. I think he lied and said, I left my cell phone home, but he was calling from like some sort of landline phone, maybe like a cordless landline phone. This guy didn't even have a cell phone. And if you don't have a cell phone in America in 2019, then you're very poor. If all you have is a landline, you're extremely poor. And this guy is a ex-soldier, and he's suffering from PTSD. That's obvious. He talks about feeling like someone's going to kill him. It makes sense that he would take that money, and I wasn't even mad at him. No, the streets got to eat. I was not mad at him in any way. I said to myself, you know, how could you resist the 500 G's? So yes, there is a brotherhood between police. I mean, yes, of course we know that. Freudian slip there. But yes, there is a brotherhood between the soldiers, and they do it without asking any questions and not wanting any compensation for it. They're there to help their brothers. And I also find it interesting how they didn't show us who the pilot was, but my assumption is that the pilot was a white guy who has a plane, and this happened to be, you know, like, so we got the black soldiers are pimps and, you know, living in trailer homes, and the white soldiers are, they own planes and live in beautiful homes. But despite all that, you cannot separate the commonality of a brotherhood. And I love that truth drop of this movie. It's letting you know that soldiers are going to be there to help each other. You know, so yeah, this movie was a true Americana movie. This movie was a true classic in my opinion. Is it a set off classic, or Jason's lyric classic, or what's the other one? What's the one where it was the basketball, where they were like playing basketball, and I think her name is Shania Lathan, just rings a bell, and she was just like, "I play you for your heart." Oh, my eyes got watery when I said that. Not when I saw that back in the day. I was like, oh, that was such a great love story. I'll play you for your heart. And then in this one, she was just like, I'll never let go of your hand. I'll never let go of your hand. Which led to her being, you know, and led him to picking her up and not wanting to see her go. And I can see this movie being a play. I can see the Broadway play of this movie all day. It's that good. It's that good. You know, like Romeo and Juliet started as a play, and then they made several renditions of the movies of it, which Leonardo DiCaprio did one of the best jobs on that movie, along with, what's his name? The fake Puerto Rican, what's his name? I can't remember. I've seen all his Broadway stuff that he does, one-man shows. He's really good. And I don't mean to call him a fake Puerto Rican. I just know that he's supposed to be like a Cuban or something like that, who pretended to be Puerto Rican because of the whole wave in the 90s coming up, you know? It was like, it might be easier for me to be a Puerto Rican guy and get a job than a Cuban guy, which is so interesting. But that guy's so dark. Oh, his one-man shows are so dark. I walked out of the last one and said, I'll never watch this again, because he was just like bringing me down. I was like, oh, this guy. It's such a piece of work. But I like him though. Oh, John Leguizamo. And, you know, this was a true American tale. Queen and Slim. I loved it. And I didn't go back today because I want to go back with LJ. I loved it that much. I want to see it again with her. You know, so I didn't get a chance to take notes and hit you with all the quotes and all that stuff like I've done in the past on my movie review channels. But I'll put up a few. I have a few, and they're usually all B movies. There's just such B movies, and I go really into depth on what they're trying to say here. But Queen and Slim, Like I said earlier, I give it a 4 out of 5 if that's your thing. If your thing is the thumbs up, I give it 2 thumbs up. And if you like to score things between 1 to 10, I give it an 8. Is it Academy Award winning for the lighting? Absolutely. Academy Award. You know, I'm over the Academy Awards. You know, I don't even care if the Academy Awards acknowledge this movie or give it a nod or whatever they refer to these things as. I don't even think that even matters. The director, yes, definitely the director, definitely the lighting. I like Boheem Woodbine for supporting, some sort of supporting actor role award nomination to some degree. He was phenomenal. He was top notch. And the tranny she was top notch as well. Everyone did such a great job. I mean, how many takes did they make? Jesus Christ. And then now it's all done video. It's all done digital. So you can do these kind of takes. There's no excuse for a movie not to be able to grab you. You know, if it doesn't grab you, that means its director sucked. Like James Cameron. The scene in the Abyss movie where the woman drowns and this guy's banging on her chest. You better wake up. Don't you die on me. And he's like pounding on her chest. I heard that was like take 20. And they were freezing and pissed off and angry. And that was like the greatest scene you ever see. And this director here did the same thing. She really knew how to capture this. This movie was just phenomenal. And thank you for being here with me. You know, I took a moment to do part 2 of the Queen and Slim movie review, and you know all the rules. You know what to do if you like this. You know, I would say share it. Share it with everybody you know on Facebook. Why not? But we'll talk more about the intermittent fasting. I had a great day when it came to that. I just had the catfish along with the spaghetti and sauce and cornbread and broccoli. It was amazing. I didn't have another meal, and I'm trying not to just do the 1 meal a day thing because I don't want to lose muscle. I want to be satiated. I want to eat when I'm full, and then like right before my timeline, 2 hours before my timeline, have something else. And I didn't have a chance to do that today, but it's okay. You know, I honestly just didn't want to get that catfish out of my mind. I didn't want to have anything else that was going to take away from such an amazing dinner that I had. So thank you again for being here with me. I appreciate you, and I look forward to us doing this again. And Queen and Slim, it's a tragic tale, but it's one of America, and it's one truth drop about the way soldiers get down. Remember that. Remember that. When you serve with a man in that kind of a situation, there is a bond that's created, and it's all through here, all through that pineal gland. And I think it appears this movie is telling us that stress opens that up. It reminds me of a race car driver I once heard, or was it John McEnroe, the tennis guy? And he said that stress was a good thing because it allowed him to play at his best when he was stressed out and afraid, you know. And I would think so, you know, like that communicating without words. And then he even said something in the end about something that she always wanted in her life, and the only way he could have known that is he was able to read her mind. So the director threw that in there, another truth drop. Thank you for being here. Want to see my shirt? Just in case you didn't see part 1. Bam! Look at my guy.